A poor black girl asks a paralyzed heiress, "I can cure you in exchange for your leftovers." She laughs. And then everything changes. Do you really think I would believe some folk remedy from a trailer park kid? Amelia Vance's voice cut through the air of the sprawling Silicon Valley estate like a diamond cutting glass, her piercing blue eyes fixed on the 12-year-old girl standing at the service entrance. Keisha Jones had just made the boldest proposal of her young life. After 3 days of watching that bitter woman in her automated wheelchair, sending untouched gourmet meals back to the kitchen while she and her grandfather, Elijah, scraped by across town, she had finally gathered the courage to knock on that door. "Ma'am, I wasn't joking," Keisha replied with a calmness that surprised even herself. "I can help you walk again. I just need you to give me the food you're throwing away." Amelia let out a cruel, artificial laugh that echoed through the minimalist, marble-clad hall. "Listen here, little girl. I've spent $20 million on the best neuroengineers and physical therapists in the world for the last 7 years. You really think a street urchin like you, who probably learns from YouTube conspiracy theories, is going to do what no cutting-edge science could?" What Amelia didn't know was that Keisha Jones wasn't just any kid. While she looked at her with utter contempt, Keisha studied every detail of the woman who had become a willing prisoner of her own bitterness. Her trained eyes, the result of years of caring for her grandfather's mysterious, debilitating illness, picked up signs that expensive specialists had overlooked. "You take experimental nerve blockers every day at 3 in the afternoon, Keisha said calmly, watching Amelia's face change from mockery to surprise. 2 black capsules and 1 clear liquid dose. And you always complain that your left arm feels like it's burning, even when it's cold. How do you know that?" Amelia whispered, her arrogance wavering for the first time. Keisha had spent weeks watching her routine through open blinds, not out of morbid curiosity, but because she recognized symptoms her grandfather had exhibited before the unconventional treatments that had given him a new lease on life. The difference was that her grandfather had relied on knowledge passed down from generation to generation in their African American heritage, while Amelia clung only to what money and technology could buy. "Because I see what your expensive doctors don't want to see," Keisha replied, keeping her tone respectful despite the hostility. "You don't need more medicine. You need someone who understands that sometimes healing doesn't come from where we expect it to." Amelia slammed the sleek, automatic door shut, but not before Keisha saw something in her eyes that was no longer just contempt. It was fear. Fear that a poor 12-year-old girl had noticed something that all the experts had missed. As she walked back to the small, dilapidated mobile home she shared with her grandfather, Elijah, Keisha smiled discreetly. Amelia Vance had just made her first fatal mistake, completely underestimating someone who had grown up learning that survival required observation, patience, and a wisdom that money could never buy. What that bitter, rich woman had no idea was that this trailer park kid carried the knowledge of 5 generations of African American folk healers. And more importantly, she had just discovered exactly what Amelia's real problem was. 3 days had passed since Amelia had slammed the door in Keisha's face, but she couldn't shake her uneasiness. How did that girl know about her medications? About the exact time she took them? About the symptoms she had carefully hidden even from Dr. Albright, her private neurological consultant? The next morning, Amelia decided to find out who this audacious kid was. A call to her personal AI assistant was enough. Keisha Jones, 12 years old, lived with her grandfather, Elijah Jones, in the forgotten Sunset Meadows trailer park. Father unknown. Mother died in a small plane crash when she was 5. Public school. Surprisingly excellent grades. No criminal record. "Typical," Amelia muttered, swiping through the holographic report. Just another case of a poor little thing trying to take advantage of the kindness of strangers. But there was something in the report that bothered her. Elijah Jones, 78 years old, former construction worker, retired due to disability after severe chronic pain and mobility issues. However, medical records showed an inexplicable recovery over the past 2 years, something doctors classified as unforeseen and clinically undocumented improvement. Amelia dismissed the information as a bureaucratic error. After all, what knowledge could an old black man from a trailer park have? Meanwhile, across town, Keisha carefully prepared her next approach. Amelia's reaction had confirmed her suspicions. She wasn't really paralyzed, at least not in the way everyone believed. "Grandpa," Keisha said, sitting down next to Elijah on the small, rickety porch swing, "I need you to tell me again about the signs of psychosomatic paralysis." Elijah Jones had worked for 40 years as a roughneck, but his real knowledge came from a much older lineage. His great-grandmother had been a renowned granny woman healer in the Deep South, knowledge passed down through generations. When doctors told Elijah he would live out his days in debilitating pain, it was this ancestral wisdom that saved him. "Smart girl," Elijah smiled, his experienced eyes shining with pride. "You saw what I taught you, didn't you? Her legs tense when she doesn't realize she's being watched. The muscles respond to emotional stimuli." Keisha nodded. During her discreet observations, she had noticed how Amelia's feet twitched unconsciously when she yelled at the staff, how her legs tensed when something upset her deeply. They were almost imperceptible signs, but to someone trained to look for what doctors didn't, they were clear evidence. "She's trapped in her own mind," Keisha murmured. "Her body works, but her mind has created the chains." "Exactly," Elijah confirmed. "Psychological trauma manifested as physical paralysis. I've seen 3 cases like this back in the old days. Fancy doctors don't want to treat the mind, only the body. It's easier to give medicine than to heal a wounded soul." That afternoon, Amelia received an unexpected visitor. Dr. Albright arrived with the results of new brain scans she had requested the week before, desperate to find any hope of improvement. "Amelia, I need to be honest with you," the doctor said, adjusting his designer glasses. "These scans show something peculiar. There is neural activity in areas that should be completely inactive. It's as if her nervous system is functioning perfectly." "What does that mean?" Amelia asked, her voice tense. "It means that neurologically, there is no physical reason for your paralysis. I've suspected this for some time, but now I'm certain." Dr. Albright hesitated. "Have you considered more intensive psychological therapy? Sometimes trauma can manifest itself physically in ways that—" "Stop!" Amelia shouted. "Are you saying I'm faking it? That I've spent 7 years in this chair for fun?" "No, that's not it. Your paralysis is real, but the cause may be psychosomatic with the right treatment." Amelia dismissed the doctor before he could finish her sentence. The truth hurt more than any terminal diagnosis. If her paralysis was mental, that meant she had wasted 7 years of her life hiding behind a self-imposed disability. Worse, it meant that a poor 12-year-old girl had diagnosed in minutes what she had denied for years. That night, Amelia found herself staring out her bedroom window, watching the distant lights of the Sunset Meadows trailer park where Keisha lived. The dim glow from a single window showed shadows moving through cheap curtains. A family living on an income that didn't even cover her monthly antidepressant bill, but who apparently possessed knowledge that all her money couldn't buy. For a moment, Amelia felt something she hadn't felt in years: humility. And immediately, she choked it down with renewed anger. "That girl isn't going to humiliate me," she whispered to herself. "I won't let a trailer park kid make a fool of me." What Amelia didn't know was that at that very moment, Keisha was sitting at the worn kitchen table with her grandfather, carefully planning her next move. She had recognized the type of woman Amelia was: too proud to accept help, too rich to value free wisdom, and too hurt to trust anyone. But Keisha Jones had learned a valuable lesson from her grandfather. Sometimes to heal someone, you first have to show them exactly how sick they really are. And while Amelia plotted her revenge against the girl who had exposed her most intimate lie, Keisha smiled quietly, knowing that true power always belongs to those who understand that healing never comes from where we expect it, especially when it comes from the hands of those the world has taught you to despise. The following week brought a radical change in the dynamic between Amelia and Keisha. The heiress had decided she would not tolerate being disrespected by a smug brat, and began a silent campaign to humiliate the girl publicly. First, she called the local public school, where Keisha excelled. Principal Hayes, this is Amelia Vance of Vance Industries. I'd like to discuss the inappropriate behavior of one of your students, Keisha Jones. She has been trespassing on private property and harassing neighborhood residents. The call worked. The next day, Keisha was called to the principal's office and warned to stay in her lane and not bother influential community members. The threat was clear. One more misstep and her otherwise stellar academic record could be jeopardized, affecting any future college applications. Amelia also contacted the management of the trailer park, suggesting that disruptive elements were causing discomfort to respectable neighbors. Although they couldn't legally evict them without cause, the management began to make things difficult. Complaints about non-existent noise, threats of fines for imaginary infractions, surprise inspections that always found minor problems. She's trying to get us kicked out of the park, Keisha told her grandfather Elijah as she prepared the juniper berry tea they drank every night. She wants us to disappear so she doesn't have to face the truth about herself. Elijah Jones watched his granddaughter with experienced eyes. At 78, he had survived decades of systemic poverty, discrimination for his unscientific healing methods, and attempts to silence his community. He recognized the patterns of behavior of those who used power and privilege as weapons. Girl, that woman is afraid, Elijah said calmly. When rich people are afraid of poor people, it's because they know they've done something wrong. And when they're afraid of the truth, they'll do anything to destroy anyone who can reveal it. But Grandpa, what if she hurts our reputation? What if she gets us kicked out of here? Elijah smiled with the wisdom of someone who had faced far more powerful adversaries. Keisha, let me tell you a story. When your mother was your age, a powerful pharmaceutical rep tried to shut down our free clinic because we were curing people with herbs when his expensive drugs were failing. He used all his influence to hurt us. What happened? Keisha asked, realizing that her grandfather was about to teach her something fundamental. That rep had a very important client, a tech mogul who suffered from the same rare neurological condition I had cured in dozens of folks who couldn't afford a single pill. When his expensive treatment failed and the mogul was dying, guess who they came to see? You. Exactly. And when I saved that man's life using methods that the arrogant rep had dismissed as primitive, everyone knew who really understood medicine. He lost his contract, his reputation, everything. Not out of revenge, but because the truth always comes out. Keisha began to understand. Amelia isn't just afraid that I can help her. She's afraid that people will find out that she rejected help from someone she considers inferior. Now you're thinking like a real healer. Elijah smiled. We don't just heal the body, girl. Sometimes we need to heal the sick soul of an entire society. That night, Keisha began meticulous research on Amelia Vance. Using the public library's computers, she discovered details that completely changed her understanding of the situation. Amelia had not been born rich. The daughter of hard-working white immigrants from Eastern Europe, she had married Robert Vance, heir to a tech fortune built on controversial data mining practices in the early 2000s. The accident that left her paralyzed had happened exactly one day after she discovered that her husband was planning to divorce her for a much younger, more brilliant programmer. Even more interesting, Robert had died under suspicious circumstances just 18 months later, leaving his entire fortune to Amelia. The will had been changed just 1 week before his death, when he was hospitalized after a sudden, undiagnosed brain hemorrhage. Keisha also discovered something that explained Amelia's particular hostility toward her. The Jones family, for generations, had been community leaders in the area, often advocating for the rights of marginalized groups against powerful land developers, including Vance Industries, which had aggressively expanded into poorer neighborhoods. Her great-great-grandmother had organized protests against the company's exploitative labor practices. Her great-grandmother had fought for fair housing against Vance-owned properties, and her grandfather, Elijah, had personally treated many of the Vance employees who couldn't afford their own doctors, often seeing the consequences of the company's disregard for worker safety. But the most revealing detail was in the archived local news reports Elijah had kept secret for decades. Robert Vance's own mother, Rose, had mysteriously recovered from a supposedly terminal, degenerative neurological disorder using traditional treatments Elijah had secretly administered. The family doctors never knew the truth, crediting the miraculous recovery to the conventional, ineffective treatments she was officially receiving. "Grandpa," Keisha said the next morning, "Amelia isn't just physically ill. She's sick with guilt, fear, and shame. Her body is reflecting the prison she has built for her own soul." Elijah nodded proudly. "And now, my granddaughter, you understand what true healing she needs. It's not just about making her walk again. It's about making her face who she really is and what she's done." "Exactly," Keisha agreed. "But remember, our family has never used our gifts to hurt, always to heal, even when the person doesn't deserve it, even when she hates us." Keisha spent the rest of the week watching Amelia with new understanding. Every cruel gesture she made, every attempt to humiliate her, only confirmed her diagnosis. She wasn't paralyzed by physical damage, but by a guilt so deep it had manifested as actual paralysis. The plan that began to form in her mind was audacious and dangerous. It wasn't just about proving she could heal her, but forcing her to confront decades of privilege built on the suffering of others, lies about her own identity, and crimes she had buried under piles of money. Amelia Vance thought she was fighting a poor girl who wanted her leftovers. She had no idea she was about to face 5 generations of accumulated wisdom, a lineage of healers who had survived centuries of oppression, and a young woman who carried not only the knowledge to cure her, but also the evidence to destroy her completely. While Amelia planned her next public humiliation of Keisha, the girl smiled quietly, knowing that each act of cruelty from her only confirmed that she had correctly diagnosed not only her physical condition, but also the moral rot that truly held her prisoner. The cure Keisha planned would be much deeper than Amelia imagined, and much more painful as well. The final confrontation took place on a Monday morning when Amelia least expected it. Keisha rang the front doorbell for the first time, no longer using the service entrance reserved for people like her. When Amelia's robotic butler opened the door, it revealed not only Keisha, but also Elijah Jones and a third person who made Amelia's blood run cold, Dr. Lena Kahn, the brilliant neurologist who had secretly treated Robert's mother, Rose, years earlier, and had been summarily dismissed from Vance Industries' medical research division shortly after Rose's miraculous recovery. "Good morning, Amelia," Keisha said calmly. "I've come to keep my promise. Today is the day you're going to walk again." Amelia tried to close the heavy reinforced door, but her arrogance betrayed her. "What kind of joke is this? I've called security." "Go ahead," Keisha smiled. "They'll want to see this too, especially when they find out who you really are." Elijah stepped forward, carrying an old, worn leather satchel. "Amelia Kowalski, daughter of Polish immigrants, born May 2nd, 1978. Married Robert Vance in 2008, 2 months after discovering he was having an affair with his lead software engineer." Amelia's face paled. No one had known her real maiden name for decades. "The accident that left you paralyzed happened exactly 1 day after you discovered Robert was planning to divorce you," Keisha continued. "Very convenient, don't you think?" Dr. Kahn opened a secure digital medical file on a tablet. "I treated Robert's mother, Rose, when she was dying of a rare degenerative neurological condition. Elijah here was the one who actually cured her, using methods Vance Industries would never acknowledge, but the family never knew the full truth. I kept all the records, including the neurological tests I performed on you after your accident. Your tests always showed normal neural activity, Amelia," Dr. Kahn said coldly. "But you paid me very well to keep that a secret, didn't you? $7 million to confirm a non-existent paralysis and hide the truth about Rose's recovery." Amelia staggered, leaning against the doorframe. "You can't prove anything." Keisha smiled and took a sleek, encrypted data chip from her pocket. "Oh, I can." You know that cutting-edge home monitoring system you installed to keep an eye on your employees and every corner of this estate? It worked very well for recording your private phone conversations and video calls, too. Amelia's voice echoed from a small, powerful, portable speaker Keisha activated. Dr. Khan, I need you to stick with the diagnosis. If Robert finds out I can walk, I'll lose everything in the divorce. Keep confirming the paralysis, and I'll triple your fee. You recorded my private calls! Amelia shrieked, her mask of victimhood finally slipping. Not just the calls, Elijah said calmly. Keisha also documented how you can walk when you think no one is watching. 57 videos over 8 months, showing you walking around the house, even dancing when you believed you were completely alone. Keisha connected the chip to the speaker, and the videos began to play. Amelia getting up from her automated wheelchair to retrieve something high on a bookshelf, walking normally through her meticulously manicured Zen garden in the early hours of the morning, even running on the advanced treadmill in her private underground gym. Stop, Amelia yelled, but her own voice on the videos betrayed her, talking normally to staff when she thought there were no witnesses. There's more, Keisha said softly. Robert's medical records. You altered his will while he was heavily sedated after his brain hemorrhage. The same Dr. Khan who confirmed your fake paralysis also falsified your husband's death certificates. Dr. Khan hung her head. She blackmailed me. She said she would reveal that I had covered up the fake paralysis if I didn't confirm that Robert died of natural causes. Robert was poisoned, Elijah said with the authority of someone who had seen similar symptoms for decades in his community. A synthetic neurotoxin, slow-acting, mimics a natural brain hemorrhage and is almost impossible to detect after a few days without specific targeted tests. A method Vance Industries' R&D division had been researching for potential non-lethal incapacitation, according to internal documents I found. Amelia collapsed back into her expensive wheelchair, realizing that her gilded world of lies was completely crumbling. You don't understand. He was going to leave me with nothing. I gave the best years of my life to that man. And now, Keisha said, the time has come for the real cure. Get up, Amelia. We know you can. I can't get up. Keisha shouted with an authority that made Amelia jump involuntarily out of her chair, standing up out of pure reflex. For a moment, everyone stood silently staring at the woman who had pretended to be disabled for 7 years. Now standing, trembling with rage and fear. Congratulations, Keisha said calmly. You're cured officially. Elijah approached with new documents. These are the reports that will be delivered today to the local police, the FBI, and the IRS. Insurance fraud, falsification of medical reports, tax evasion, and first-degree murder. We also sent everything to the New York Times, CNN, and all major social media platforms. Keisha added, the story of the fake millionaire paralytic who murdered her husband will be national news by tomorrow morning. Amelia looked around desperately. There was nowhere to run, no way to deny what was recorded, documented, proven. Decades of privilege built on lies and blood were crumbling in a matter of minutes. You know what's most ironic? Keisha asked, helping her grandfather neatly put away the documents. You'll really be paralyzed now in prison, without your millions, without your paid doctors, without anyone to prop up your lies. Police sirens began to approach, growing louder. Someone had called the authorities, probably a neighbor curious about all the commotion. The real paralysis, Elijah said wisely, has always been in your soul, Amelia. You paralyzed yourself morally so long ago that you forgot how to live with dignity. As the police climbed the steps of the estate, Amelia looked at Keisha with a mixture of hatred and involuntary respect. How did a 12-year-old girl manage to destroy my entire life? Keisha smiled with the calmness of someone who had learned that justice sometimes requires patience, observation, and the courage to stand up to those who consider you inferior. Very simple, she replied. You completely underestimated someone who grew up knowing that survival requires intelligence, not privilege. And you forgot that sometimes the most powerful remedies come from where we least expect them. In the center of that opulent hall, where arrogance disguised as victimization once reigned, a new reality was now taking shape. Like a symphony that finally finds its harmony after years of dissonant notes, proving that true justice knows no color, social class, or limitations imposed by those who confuse money with impunity. 6 months after Amelia Vance's spectacular collapse, the transformation was more dramatic than any Hollywood screenwriter could have imagined. The sprawling estate that once symbolized privilege and arrogance now housed the Elijah Jones Community FU Wellness Center, funded by Amelia's confiscated assets seized by the FBI. Keisha, at 14, had become the youngest student in Stanford University's history with a full scholarship to study neurobiology and holistic medicine. But what made Elijah most proud was that his granddaughter had turned down dozens of multi-million-dollar offers to give interviews, preferring to continue learning the secrets of generations of healers and applying them to modern science. Amelia, who had once discarded expensive gourmet dishes while children went hungry, now shared a 2-square-meter cell in a federal penitentiary in California. 25 years to life for first-degree murder would give her plenty of time to reflect on how she had wasted a lifetime building power on lies. The trial had become a worldwide phenomenon. The millionaire fake paralytic who had fooled the medical system and murdered her husband became a symbol of how arrogance destroys those who underestimate others. But what really captured the public imagination was the striking contrast between the profound wisdom of a 12-year-old girl and the profound ignorance of a woman who had spent $20 million looking for cures that existed next door. Dr. Lena Khan, the neurologist blackmailed by Amelia, now worked voluntarily at the community center. Keisha showed me that I spent 30 years looking only at brain scans and data, she confessed in a national interview. I forgot that real medicine begins with observing the whole patient, not just the numbers. That girl taught me more in 6 months than I learned in decades of expensive specializations. Dr. Albright, who had accepted payments to confirm false diagnoses, lost his medical license and now worked as a clerk in a small-town pharmacy. It was the perfect irony for someone who had scorned unscientific treatments while participating in a multi-million-dollar medical scam. The Sunset Meadows community had been completely transformed. Children who had once struggled just to eat now dreamed of becoming doctors, scientists, and lawyers. Keisha had proven that intelligence and determination could defeat any system designed to keep them in their place. Amelia did indeed develop problems with her legs in prison. Stress and depression caused genuine muscle atrophy. Now she depended on a rusty old wheelchair borrowed from the infirmary, a cheap version that made her old $15,000 automated chair look like a lost throne. Keisha visited her only once. She looked at Amelia through the bulletproof glass with empty eyes, devoid of the arrogance of before. "Why did you come here?" Amelia asked, her voice raspy. "To make sure you understood," Keisha replied. "I never wanted to destroy you. I just wanted you to stop trying to destroy us. You were just a child, and you were a wealthy adult with all the resources in the world. Who really should have known right from wrong?" Amelia finally understood the magnitude of her smallness. A 12-year-old girl had shown more wisdom and integrity than she had in her entire privileged life. Keisha's story became a case study in universities across the country. The Keisha Jones effect forced institutions to recognize that exceptional intelligence comes from everywhere, especially where we least expect it. Programs were created to identify talent in communities traditionally ignored by academia. Elijah continues to run the center, now expanded to 3 floors of the former estate. He trains a new generation of healers who combine ancestral knowledge with modern science, proving that true wisdom knows no racial or social barriers. Amelia became an example in criminology classes about how privilege without character leads to self-destruction. When prisoners ask how a rich woman ended up there, the answer is always the same. She underestimated someone she considered inferior and paid the ultimate price for her arrogance. The real lesson is not about a girl who defeated a cruel woman. It's about how our society ignores wisdom when it comes from people who don't fit our preconceptions about who should be smart or worthy of respect. Keisha proved that the most powerful healing is not for the body, but for toxic beliefs that prevent us from recognizing value in every human being, regardless of color, origin, or socioeconomic status. If this story of overcoming adversity has touched you, subscribe to the channel for more stories that prove that true wisdom comes from the most unexpected places, and that the greatest teachers are those the world has taught you to ignore. Amelia tried to destroy Keisha, but ended up destroying herself. Keisha learned that true healing isn't just about restoring broken bodies. It's about transforming minds closed by prejudice into hearts open to recognizing greatness where it truly exists.